Hi everyone. So for those of you that have seen the other videos, you'll know that we're doing the TAT, the Trans-America Trail, starting from Nag's Head on the east coast and travelling across to the west coast. And that in the last video we did North Carolina, and this video is us just about to enter Tennessee. So if I pop the camera around onto the map and see where we're off to.
So here we are. Here's the map of the whole of the Trans-America Trail. We are coming down out of North Carolina and crossing into Tennessee. Tennessee is this yellow state, and it's long and thin, and you can see we do pretty much the whole length of it. We'll duck down very briefly into Georgia, the purple one, and Alabama, the other orange one, before nipping back up and finishing off Tennessee before eventually ducking down and crossing the state line into Mississippi.
So we rode up and over more mountains this morning in an area called the Snowbird Wilderness area, and then we cut off onto one of the Skyway paved roads with some fantastic views over the top. We've now just crossed into Tennessee and stopped for a bit of lunch, and then we're carrying on, west into Tennessee.
Had the foggiest idea. I've been here for almost a year now, right. California, and that man right there can probably help you right here.
Oh, what's that?
It's all highway.
Lost Creek's all gravel all the way through.
Is it?
Yeah, it's all gravel.
And do you know about river crossings down there? Because we've been through a few today and they're getting a bit deep.
Everything out through there should all be on bridges.
Is it?
Yeah, there's no river crossings that I know of out through there.
So our first afternoon riding in Tennessee has been great, but pretty challenging. Water crossings all over the place, some pretty deep, pretty tiring really, and some of the tracks are really wet and slippy as well. So we've just come down out of the woods and the mountains and sort of stumbled across this little gas station, and the chap in there has got sort of some spare land out the back by a stream. He says we can camp there. So it's a bit early, but we decided to do that. So we'll stay here overnight and then crack on a little bit deeper into Tennessee tomorrow. So we had a nice ride this morning, much harder riding, much more technical, very, very steep, pretty rocky in places, but good fun. But somehow during the process, Pete and I got separated. So anyway, and of course there's no phone signal or anything like that. But anyway, we managed to meet up where the trail intersected a highway at a little town called Copper Hill. So that was great. And now Pete's just filling up the fuel, and then we're heading off into the Cohata Wilderness area, where we'll probably camp tonight.
And then a little bit further on, I was too slow with the GoPro, but there was a full-sized adult black bear standing in the middle of the path, but it lolloped away when it heard the bike coming.
So we've come down out of the wilderness area in Tennessee, met the sort of main road and ducked off to try and find some accommodation, which basically there isn't any, no campsites, no really wild camping, motels, nothing. So we've stopped at this little house where the owner, Benji, has very kindly said we can basically camp on his sort of front lawn bit. So that's exactly what we've done. One campsite. Perfect.
Now, I never did see nothing, but I didn't mess with it again. I said, nah, you know, because we're out, you know, in the middle of nowhere, and it's a long ways away from anybody. So I just.
So people claim Bigfoot around here, don't they?
Yeah. If it's doing that, there's something there. You know, a footprint like that and that wide, I don't want to walk up on him.
So well, we stayed in Chattanooga in southern Tennessee. We stayed here yesterday, had a day off the bikes. Very nice town. I think it's about the 4th largest in Tennessee. Really nicely situated along the banks of the River Tennessee. And as you can see behind me, famous for Chattanooga Choo Choo, which was a 40s, I think, song by maybe Glenn Miller. But anyway, that's one of the reasons everyone knows the name of Chattanooga. But actually, historically, also very important, major transport hub, right back to the days of the Civil War, which made it a really key battleground, apparently, between the two sides, because whoever controlled this area controlled the the dispersal of ammunition and troops using the railways. I think it went in 5 directions from here. But nowadays, really nice town, pretty big, but a really nice place to visit.
How you guys doing?
Hi.
We saw you guys pull up, and I was like, no, those are bikes. Those dudes did not just pick up all their shit at the Harley shop and go to Shenanigans for lunch.
No, that's right.
I was like, those bikes are on the road.
Takes us pretty much west to Utah, and then north, and then west
so
again.
you'll go up above Texas.
Exactly.
Into Utah, so you'll get the good stuff, because Texas sucks. I mean, unless you like dirt, you know.
Well, a nice ride out of Chattanooga today. Very noticeable change in sort of countryside and landscape when we left. Went from previously being very sort of mountainous, very heavily forested, to increasingly more open, sort of rolling hills, farmland, both cattle and arable. I would say pretty prosperous. There are some really nice properties on the way, very, very large farms, fantastic back roads. And some nice trails, so a really good day's ride. Unbeknown to us, we crossed the timeline en route, so we gained an hour, which luckily our little phones realised. But again, slight difficulty in finding accommodation. Asked various places if we could camp, all with a bit of a negative, until we stumbled across this place behind me, which is actually a biker club with the bikes out the front. So we popped in there. It's a private club. They phoned the boss, who said, yeah, if you're riding through, no problem sticking your tents up round the back, out of the way of prying eyes of the police, apparently, who paid particular attention to this establishment. So we've done that, and they said once we've got our stuff sorted, to join them in the bar for a couple of beers and a burger. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So we've had some lovely riding this morning after we left our little camp at the back of the biker place last night, which was great. We've been sort of up and down the hills, still in southern Tennessee, probably roughly south of Nashville at the moment, and the countryside is beautiful. We've been doing some little trails through the woods, but most of it's sort of back roads, mainly tarmac. But the scenery's been fantastic, and because we're sort of south of Nashville, I've had my little country music playing in my headphones. Just sublime. We just stopped in Wayne County just to grab a bit of lunch, and stumbled across this chap who's painting a mural in the Veterans Park here. I'll just switch the camera around. He's done this wall. It's a lovely little park. And then this is the main one he's doing just now. Amazing, isn't it? Hi.
Hey, how are you doing?
Very good, thanks. I'm just admiring your work.
Well, thank you.
That's amazing.
Basically a World War II scene on the end.
Ah, right, okay.
It's kind of honoring the medics, the people that sacrificed so much.
Right.
And then the Guardian on the far left end. And, so it's a combination of a couple of scenes. And then I just gridded off.
So we've actually ridden down out of Tennessee into sort of south into Alabama, just nipping into the state. We'll actually be going back up into sort of looping back up tomorrow into Tennessee to finish the section. But tonight we've come down to the shores of the Tennessee River to camp. So if I show you our little camping area, there we go. How's that for a camp spot? So we just nipped south out of the far west of Tennessee, down into Alabama, just a little loop we're doing, and into a town called Waterloo, small town, and it apparently is where a thing called the Trail of Tears ends. Now it's coincidental that when we were riding up through North Carolina, particularly, we kept coming on and then off something called the Trail of Tears with signs. Never knew what it was, but we've just chatted to some people here, and coincidentally this is where it ends. And basically it is a route that was taken, a sort of forced migration of Native Americans back in the 1800s by the government, mainly Cherokee Indians, and it was the Cherokee region that we rode through in North Carolina. And basically they were forced down here and then forced onwards ultimately to areas like Oklahoma, so a long way west from us yet. And there were thousands of deaths, and it's something, talking to the local people here, that the sort of Americans are historically shameful about, and that's why it's now being called the Trail of Tears. And it turns out actually that they have a motorcycle rally every year that follows the sort of paved, the tarmac route of the Trail of Tears, which we sort of crisscrossed on our way down here. And we just stopped for breakfast in a little sort of gas station in town here, and they were saying that I think it's the third week of September, they get about 200,000 motorcycles down here. And when you consider that the town only has a population of 200, that's quite an event. But no, interesting piece of history. So I'll show you. I've taken a couple of pictures of the memorial plaque that's just behind me here. And with that, a few more gravel and sand roads ended what had been a really enjoyable time in Tennessee as we headed for the state line with Mississippi.